The Fortune Cookie Kid, Chapter 1, The Power of the Cookie. It's not easy being the best friend of a genius, but someone has to do it. Thomas and I have been friends since he moved into the house next door 5 years ago. He had a hard time making friends at first. Last year he became the most popular kid in school. Kids started calling him the Fortune Cookie Kid. Thomas can take the message of those cookies and twist them to fit whatever situation he finds himself in. However, I don't understand his need to use fortune cookies to make important decisions. That is the one thing about Thomas I haven't figured out yet. The magic of the cookie only works if he eats it. He ate 2 big bags of cookies last year when all the kids in our third-hour math class started acting strange, myself included. We actually did our schoolwork without talking. Everyone was courteous, raising their hands and being nice to each other. At least that is what Thomas told me. Then as soon as the bell rang, we went back to our normal behavior. It would be better if I tell you about last year from the beginning.
I couldn't concentrate in math. Everyone was too quiet. Even you were doing your work instead of pestering me for help. It was disturbing.
I was quiet? I gave him a questioning look.
Yes.
He looked at me like I was a bigger idiot than usual. I wrinkled my forehead as I thought about math class. After several moments of thought, I turned to my friend. I don't remember anything about class. It wasn't that unusual for me not to remember exceptionally boring subjects like math. The only thing I remember was Redding escorted a new girl to class. She had gone to science by mistake. Don't you think it's odd that he brought her to class instead of asking another student to do it? Thomas narrowed his eyes and stared past me. I turned my head to see what he was looking at. The bell for our next class rang. Chelsea Meyer brushed past us. Her long blonde hair blew across Thomas's right shoulder. I watched him follow her flowing golden curls until they came to rest on her waist. She turned and smiled at him.
Hi, Thomas.
Her voice was smooth as silk as the words blew softly out. When it comes to Chelsea Meyer, no guy in his right mind would give up a chance to talk to her except Thomas. Girls turn his brains to mush. They are his kryptonite, especially Chelsea. Hi, I said awkwardly for him and waved as I rushed to catch up with my friend. Last year, Thomas figured out a way for us to have every class together except gym. Instead, he had free time which he spent in front of a computer in study hall or running errands for the office, while I sweated it out with all the jocks. The first day, they gave me a hard time. When I met up with my friend for lit class, both of my knees and one hand was bloody from falling.
"Hand me a fortune cookie,"
he whispered after he noticed me blowing on my palm. I dug into my backpack and placed a golden cookie in his hand. My Aunt Peg owns a Chinese restaurant, and every day Thomas asks me for at least 1 cookie. Over the years, I have found it easier to carry a bag with me than to try to keep up with Thomas as he madly searches for the magical all-knowing paper note hidden inside of a crunchy sweet cookie. I watched him quietly crack it open. It made a muffled, soft rustling sound as he pulled the paper from it. His eyes studied the thin rectangle strip. Then he quickly stuffed the cookie into his mouth and chewed. He swallowed hard and raised his hand.
"Yes, Thomas."
May I be excused to go to the men's room?
The teacher glanced at the clock on the wall.
"There's only 15 minutes of class left. Are you sure you can't wait?"
I've been waiting, and I really need to go.
He bounced his knees convincingly. The teacher reluctantly handed him a hall pass. When the bell finally rang, I rushed out of class to see what he was up to. I found him talking to a group of the guys from PE near the office door. They seemed nervous and kept glancing at me. He joined me just as I opened the outside door to head home. I hate to admit it, but I was mad. Though I was no athlete, it was my battle, not his. What were you talking to them for?
They wanted to know if I would join their study group.
I don't think they even know what the word study means. I glanced back at them. They watched us exit out the door. Why are they still looking at us then?
Are they?
He cocked his head at me and smirked. By this expression, I knew I was not going to get anything out of him. Thomas, what did that cookie say?
Choose another cookie.
He smiled and got in line for the bus. The next day at school, all the jocks left me alone. A chubby kid named Chester approached me in the locker room at the end of class, just as I was pulling on my t-shirt.
"Why are the basketball players in our class being nice to you?"
He held the towel wrapped around him in place with both hands. I shrugged my shoulders. I don't know.
"The other kids are saying that the Fortune Cookie Kid protects you. Is that right? I mean, you are his best friend."
I looked at his bruises and sighed. I knew what was coming before the words came out of his mouth.
"Could you ask him to help the rest of us? Please."
There weren't a lot of kids in my PE class that were physically challenged, but they were all now standing behind Chester looking at me with pleading eyes. I'll ask, but don't expect anything. He is not even admitting to me that he did something, though he obviously has. My locker door clanked as I shut it, and the small band of my physically challenged brothers scattered like mice. What did he say to the jocks in the hall yesterday? I muttered. Did he bribe them? He wouldn't do something like that. It was probably blackmail. That is more Thomas's style. With a sigh, I heaved my backpack onto my shoulder and hurried to my last class. I sat quietly in my chair without a word to Thomas, pulled out my literature book, placed it on my desk, and thought about PE. The basketball players in PE didn't really beat up on us or anything like that. They were just competitive, and if you didn't move fast enough, they would run you over or worse, yell in your face. So, what had Thomas done to make them be more careful and less prone to verbal outbursts? I looked at my friend who was focused on the teacher. Not one of them had yelled at me today. Although I thought Scott Taylor was going to go ballistic on me for dropping the basketball and letting it go out of bounds. Not once did they knock me over or elbow me for being in their way. I shook my head and glanced at Thomas. He was staring at me as well as the rest of the class. Mr. Haggard was looking at me impatiently. What was the question?
Please try to focus your attention on your classwork, Reggie.
He pointed to the closed book on my desk.
Turn to page 105. Sarah, read the second paragraph, while Mr. Smith gets caught up with the rest of us.
The book on my desk was quickly opened, and I soon was on the right page. It was so embarrassing. I had never been caught unaware of my environment like that. On the way to the bus, Thomas said,
You did it again.
With a confused look on my face, I asked, What are you talking about?
In math class, everyone including you were behaving less than normal.
You mean I was being quiet and doing my work? We got on the bus and sat in our regular spot.
Yes, do you remember being in class?
My forehead wrinkled as I tried to remember. I vaguely remember studying fractions. Thomas raised an eyebrow.
So you do remember?
He turned his face towards the bus window, contemplating on the situation, until the girl Mr. Redding had escorted to class the first day of school sat in front of us. She didn't say a word. Her uncombed dark brown hair hung over her face like a veil concealing her expression. I took it to mean she was shy or something. Girls are odd creatures, and I don't know if I want to get to know them or not. Especially this one who clearly didn't want to interact with anyone on the bus. Thomas reached towards the girl and went to tap her right shoulder. I swiped his hand down.
Are you insane? Look at her.
He insisted and held out a hand.
Give me a cookie.
The zipper seemed unusually loud as I opened my backpack to get a fortune cookie from it. The quieter I was trying to be, the louder the cellophane crinkled like an elephant stomping on a mountain of leaves. It seemed to vibrate the whole bus. Please don't let him talk to that girl, I thought as I pulled a cookie out and tried to will the writing on the inside of it to do my bidding. Thomas cracked it with one hand and pulled the message out. Then he popped the crushed cookie pieces into his mouth and chewed. Gulping hard, he swallowed them down. He quietly read it aloud.
Accept the challenges, so that you may feel the exhilaration of victory.
Then, without any hesitation, he reached forward again. I grabbed the fortune and turned it over, hoping to convince him not to talk to her. One Chinese word was written. West, I said, disappointed, and crumpled the paper. He stopped and looked about as if he was getting his bearings. Then he tapped her left shoulder, which was at the time facing west. I cringed as she turned to face us. She didn't say anything, just looked at us through her ratted veil of hair. I could see one of her eyes clearly. It was a brilliant green color like an emerald. In so many ways she reminded me of a cute little mouse.
Sabrina, right?
She nodded, making her short straight hair bounce up and down.
Do you remember what we studied in math class today?
She nodded her head yes again.
Well, what did we study?
Geometry.
No, we studied fractions, I countered. Her hair flew into the air. She turned so quickly to face away from us, and sunk down in the seat so we couldn't tap her shoulder again, although the top of her head was still viewable.
Why did you do that?
Because she was wrong, I hissed.
Actually, she's right.
So what are you saying? I was not sure if I wanted to hear the answer.
Whatever happened in class didn't affect her or me.
Thomas tried to explain before I interrupted. But it did the rest of us? I didn't bother to whisper. I didn't care. Someone was messing with my mind. The one thing I thought I had control of. I'm already a klutz, now I'm weak-minded as well.
No, I was late for class that day too, remember?
Thomas tapped his forehead. That's right. You were in the office getting your schedule changed so you didn't have to go to PE class.
I can't help it if your dad is a pediatrician, and realizes the importance of exercise. My parents are more worried about my social interaction. Besides, I do my best thinking on a treadmill.
I had to agree. Thomas wasn't out of shape, and he could probably play any sport he desired, but he didn't care for any of that. Too much hype for him. His love was science. I hated every subject except literature. I loved to read, especially manga comics where you read the book from the back to the front. The book I had recently acquired was sticking out of my backpack. As I bent over to grab it, a thought dawned on me that Thomas knew something I didn't. I looked at my friend staring out the window. You know what's going on in math class, don't you? With all seriousness, he looked at me.
I think the whole class was hypnotized.
Hypnotized, I breathed. Why, how?
The real question is who?
The why is obvious, I admitted. We are a bit rowdy in class, so Ms. Peach hypnotized us. She would be the only one to benefit from us being good.
I don't think it's her. It could be Mr. Redding or
Sabrina.
anyone who was in the class before me could have done it. Shy people tend to be nervous and are not easy to hypnotize.
If it was someone in the class, the joke isn't funny, I muttered. We both looked out the window without speaking until it was our turn to get off the bus. So how did they do it? I asked because I couldn't work it out.
I'm not sure what the trigger is, but for the last 2 days it has affected the whole class.
A trigger? I questioned.
It's a word or action that causes the class to go into a hypnotic state.
You mean that every time they use the trigger, they can control me? I was trying to wrap my brain around what he was saying.
Sort of. You will do the command they gave you when you were hypnotized the first time, like being quiet and doing your work until the bell rings. That is what brings you out of it.
So the bell brings me out, but what puts me into a hypnotic state?
That I haven't worked out yet.
Thomas said, pressing his lips together hard. Does it have to be a word? My head was starting to hurt. I was thinking so hard. We stopped in front of my house. Do you want to hang out until the parents get home?
I can't. It's my turn to make dinner.
Thomas looked toward his house.
Just so you know, the trigger could be something as simple as someone coughing.
That would make everyone go in and out of a hypnotic state all day. He put a hand on my shoulder.
Now don't worry. I'll figure it out. Try wearing earplugs tomorrow. That will tell me if it is a sound.
My dad has some in the garage. I turned to leave to find them. Thomas tugged on my backpack.
Can I have a cookie before you go?
He smiled at the concerned look on my face. Sure. I slipped off my backpack and pulled out 3. Here, this should hold you until tomorrow. Thomas quickly took them from me and stuffed them into his bag.
See you bright and early in the morning.
This is the end of the chapter. Please like and subscribe.